Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here, covering the Cannes Film Festival. No longer at Cannes, but we've still got movies to talk about. And it's time to review Red Rocket, directed by Sean Baker. This was easily one of my most anticipated movies of the whole festival because Sean Baker's last movie, The Florida Project, is maybe one of my favorites of the decade. And with Red Rocket, he remains, at the very least, one of the most interesting filmmakers working. And Sean Baker is known for his unconventional casting choices, and we have a great example of that here. Simon Rex, former porn star himself, is playing a former porn star who returns to his hometown, and that's all I'm going to say about it. He's only really known for his acting roles in like the Scary Movie franchise, so it's a pretty audacious move to cast him in the lead role. And I did find a lot of similarities stylistically between this film and The Florida Project, partly just in like the directing style and the camera placements, to the free-flowing narrative structure where it's not really advancing the plot too much during the bulk of the story, but then shit starts to kind of hit the fan towards the end of the movie. But perhaps the most interesting similarity that I'm picking up on is the emphasis on the backdrop of where these characters are living. He's once again focusing on impoverished white people. And in The Florida Project, these characters were living in the shadow of Disneyland, and in this movie, in a lot of the compositions, the background is dominated by these hulking, like, industrial factories. Perhaps this is commenting on the displacement of industry jobs that led these people into their poor economic circumstances in the first place. But Sean Baker doesn't overestimate his characters' awareness of their own social surroundings. These characters don't, like, contemplate their own place within their economic circumstances. It just kind of puts those factories and everything in the background and kind of gives you reminders of the context of these characters, so it's kind of up to you to piece together how you think that fits in the story. And it took me kind of a while to figure it out for myself, but I do think it works, and it makes for a really interesting kind of commentary that I didn't see coming. But maybe I'm getting too far down the analysis rabbit hole. I mean, the center of this movie really is Simon Rex's performance. He's really excellent in the lead role. It's definitely one of the finest performances that I've seen at Cannes. His character starts out really charming. He's funny, witty, kind of hyper, always talking at a mile a minute. And I think he's a great protagonist because he's just difficult to take your eyes off of. But as the film goes on, he becomes increasingly unlikable. And some of the traits that you initially see as charming become like, oh shit, this person is really strange, like at the core of it. You begin to see a lot of what he's doing is just being like a salesman. And the movie's a lot about how the people around him deal with him and put up with him. There's his ex who he moves in with while her mother is still living there, and then he meets a barely legal girl named Strawberry who works at the donut shop. The movie's mostly this character study of an unconventional protagonist, and it kind of becomes this haunting portrait of America, or at least it's something I realized about 3/4 of the way in. I was like, oh shit, like this movie's actually this really weird commentary on the state of our country. I really want to get deeper into it and what I think it means in analyzing this movie, but I will not because it would be spoilers. The cinematography from Drew Daniels, who is the main man to Trey Edward Schultz, who worked such wonders on his film Waves, does a really great job here at the movie. It looks like it's shot on 16mm. And like with The Florida Project, the cinematography is not always showing off, but it does have like an effect on you watching it. It looks really vibrant, especially considering its setting and the role that the cinematography plays in highlighting the backdrop in those factories is really important. But unfortunately, not everything about the film worked for me. I thought it felt a good 20-30 minutes too long. It is almost a 2-hour, 10-minute movie, and Sean Baker is his own editor. It does make me wonder if the movie maybe should have had a second opinion on that. I don't know if I want to say it feels aimless in parts, but it at least felt like I knew where it was going, and I was just kind of waiting it to get to certain places. Although the last third of the movie does have some interesting developments. I just think with a character like this, it does tend to exhaust itself a little bit. Like I've kind of formed a full opinion on who he is, and I'm just watching him kind of affirm that instead of giving me new information. So I think if it condensed itself a little bit, it might have been stronger to me. And my second issue I can't get into too much because it sort of involves spoilers, but just from what I understand the movie is trying to say about like America, there was a conflict at the end of the movie that I thought might have even been stronger if it just didn't happen. There was a point where I thought the movie might have ended like 20 minutes before it actually ended, and I was thinking I might have even liked the movie a little better if it just ended there. With the addition of maybe like if you took the very ending and like put it right there, I think I might have liked the movie more. more. And I also want to mention that the movie is generally pretty funny. I think a lot of people will just kind of see it as a comedy. Simon Rex's performance is funny, especially at the beginning when you kind of view him as more of like a charming, likable person. It's easier to laugh at. If the Golden Globes happen, I think maybe he could get a nomination. Maybe he'll get a couple Critics Awards or something, but I don't really see this movie going anywhere near the Oscars. So even with the film's flaws, I think Sean Baker has again crafted something really unique and fascinating, and something that hasn't necessarily fled my mind since I've watched it. So I really like the movie. I would absolutely recommend it. You know, it's not on the level of The Florida Project for me. I don't think it's the kind of movie that is going to give people that same gut punch, but the movie does affirm that Sean Baker is one of those directors who I just am really looking out for, and every time he makes a movie, I'm going to hop on that as soon as I can. I will give Red Rocket an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. What color is your rocket?